What's cracking, people? It's your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, today I wanted to respond to a question posed by a member of the House of Technicians, aka one of my Patreon subscribers. Shout out to the Hot House. And it was a great question in response to a component of the Seduction scriptures. And this question was if I would explain the concept of the pose, or POSE, or the plane of seductive energy. So anybody who has their copy of the Seduction scriptures, definitely first turn to the glossary. That's why we have a glossary. The glossary contains more than 300 clarified terms that are referred to in the book. But for this one, we're going to turn to page 162. And basically, the plane of seductive energy is a phrase coined by the author which represents the space where the true mental and energetic essence of a person is allowed to be shown to another, aka the space of self. Now, this comes at a part in the book where I am really getting into how you project your charisma, how you present your personality to the person that you desire to acquire. And basically, in order to do that, you need to definitely have a better understanding of who you are. Now, I know it's easier said than done, and in a moment I'm going to read directly from the page of the Seduction scriptures where this concept is broken down. Now, for all of you again who have your copies, it's page 71, but I want to set this up by reminding a lot of people that when I wrote the Seduction scriptures, I truly intended this to be a book that is a step-by-step guide to build into what it means to be a seducer, an effective seducer, an effective presenter of transmuted energy in order to achieve a desired result. That definition is spelled out on the first page of the book. Okay, so what I mean when I say accessing the plane of seductive energy is that we have to tear through or create a pathway through the social conditioning that the modern world and our society specifically has us construct in order to navigate modern life. In essence, we're harkening back to a time where our innocence was our currency, right? As children, as small children, we're giving a pass and a green light to explore, to laugh, to show ourselves, our imaginary friends, anyone who would listen, but more importantly, other kids, especially new kids. A popular phrase among children is, look what I can do. Look at what how I naturally express myself. Those things become compartmentalized, and we tuck those things away as we navigate the spaces of, preteen, teenage, the young adult, and ultimately the adult world. And most of us never revisit that space until we are much older, or until we find ourselves in a space that allow us to be among our tribe, or we're in a space of mature, wiser people who recognize the power and the value of harvesting talent. And those spaces are few and far between, but those are the most sought after spaces, because not only do they position their management teams, their recruiters, and their HR personnel to identify and hire talent, but they bring in specialists, they bring in coaches, they bring in motivational speakers, they bring in all sorts of professionals to cultivate and to bring out and sharpen the skill sets of harnessing, focusing, and ultimately getting the best value value production from that talent. And so much can be said about retreats, about summits, about gurus on the internet who want you to fly out to these locations and spend 2 weeks in, amongst nature while doing these exercises and chants and rituals that they've developed, all to access this space that I refer to as the plane of seductive energy, or the seat of the self. And all of these methods are necessary, once again, like I said, to deconstruct all of the walls and barriers and patterns and basic framework that are the components of our mechanized society. What these methods and what I present in this section of the Seduction Scriptures is a how-to to build your own door to this plane, because at the end of the day, you still got to make money. You still got to be a productive member of the modern version of society. And so there's not necessarily a need to completely deconstruct the framing that allows you to do that. However, when you're learning the skill sets of seduction, building pathways, acquiring repeatable methods and actions that become like second nature is important, because minus deconstructing the necessary framing to navigate the modern space, you can build doors and pathways to access your true self. And that is the premise behind hitting the pose or accessing the plane of seductive energy. So now let's take a look at Activate 401 verse 7, otherwise known as page 71. Here it says, the plane of seductive energy. It's a vibrational frequency that allows the sensual energies of two or more beings to interface at a magnetic, energetic, and ultimately physical level. It's a fluid intersection between the logical mind of the masculine and the intuitive mind of the feminine. It's a convergent point where nothing and everything exists. In this space, an operative opens the window of his very essence. In short, in this space, he exposes the brilliance of his true self. This is what makes a salesman the top of his group. He sells himself to the potential client, not necessarily the product. This is what endears a politician to a voting bloc. He's offering himself, not necessarily an agenda. Stop right there. Gentlemen, when we think about the times where we had to be convinced to do something, to be convinced or sold on a product, or we were interested in knowing more about a candidate in lieu of their potential agenda, it's the stories that they told. It's the relatability to our experience that really solidified that sale, that really drove home the point of voting for that particular candidate. And this is the essence of projecting yourself to your potential target. And if you go over to verse 9, this is the kicker. Okay, here it says, but there's just one thing. Women have always possessed the plane of seductive energy. It's long been their secret weapon, ace in the hole, the essence of their feminine wiles. Stop right there. For so long, seduction was thought to be a woman's realm or a feminine activity. But the true masters of the skill sets of seduction have always known that these skill sets can be presented through a masculine vessel as well. All it takes is understanding what the true essence of self is, where that lies, how to access it, building a door to it, and then owning it. Verse 10 says this, That is the Grail. That is El Dorado. That is Shangri-La. It's how some individuals are able to enter a space and suck all of the air out of the space and have all of the energy focused in their direction. It's why effective trainers have candidates spell out certain words and repeat certain concepts to students, and why great artists pull the audience into the performance by having them sing along with them. Stop right there. Gentlemen, make no mistake about it. Being able to access the plane of seductive energy is one of the critical components of being an effective social seducer. But I want to caution you, this always, like anything else, comes at a cost. And I will read to you this final verse, verse 11. Having the ability to control your access to the plane of seductive energy is critical to your success and functioning in the greater world. Because attempting to live totally in the plane of seductive energy can eventually distort your logical and empirical grip on reality. This is pretty much where the average woman operates, and why a lot of artists burn out quickly due to lacking the notion of balance between planes. Stop right there for just a moment. Gentlemen, this is why in the majority of societies, women are not held to the same standard as men. Right or wrong, good or bad, you determine that for yourself. But social engineers employ some of the greatest thinkers, some of the most skilled observers of human nature when making decisions in terms of how to structure society, who should hold the burden of performance, which is men, but also who has the burden of maintaining, supporting, and holding up the balance and order of society in reality itself. Now, in the sixth section of my book, I get into how women use words to weave the matrix around us, to weave what we perceive as reality in the code of what we perceive as reality. But men ultimately have the responsibility of framing it and maintaining the reality in this physical world. But that's another conversation for another day. Select men, pre-select men, non-select men. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. And as always, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused. Later.